treat everyone as if your business is your business. You own your job. And ownership is the most important thing. And so the question I have for you then is, if that's the case, and you're thinking about your business as it is today, what's the number one problem facing your business today? What would you say that is? Give me some ideas. Number one problem that faces your business, the thing you struggle with the most. Anybody?
Execution.
Okay, execution. What else? There's no wrong answer.
Communication.
Communication. What else?
Competition.
Huh?
Competition.
Competition. Okay.
Yeah, finding new business.
Finding new business. All right.
Inability to foresee the landscape.
Inability to see the landscape. So I'm going to argue, and I'm going to tell you that the number one problem in your business today is you. You're the problem. And I'm the problem in my business. The great news about that is, if I'm the problem, I'm also the solution. And it's hard for me to fix anything except for me. It's hard for me to fix the environment. It's hard for me to fix the landscape. It's hard for me to fix my mother-in-law. It's hard, heaven knows I've tried. It's hard for you to fix the environment that we live in. Look, we're all on a sailboat. And the sailboat is surrounded by this big ocean, and the big ocean has winds and all of those kinds of things. You can't control the ocean. And you can't control the wind, but you can learn, a good sailor learns to control what? The sail. And if you control the sail, you can guide the sailboat anywhere you want, regardless of conditions. So what we tend to work on, what we tend to focus on, what we tend to talk about are the environment. What we tend to talk about is the wind. It's Medicare. It's insurance decrease and reimbursement. It's the new clinic that went in across the street. It's our competition. It's these dang employees. It's the team members that I have. It's everything except for the one thing you can control. So there's a law called the law of the lid. And the law of the lid essentially says, it's taught by John Maxwell, the law of the lid essentially says your business is only as good as you are. It's only as good as the leadership in which it has. And let me give you an example. If I were to replace you, you're the leader at your business. If I were to replace you with someone twice as good as you, would the business improve or get worse? Improve. So you just proved you're the problem. Because if I replaced you with someone twice as smart as you, twice as resourceful as you, twice as creative as you, then the business would improve. So the problem is not the environment, the problem is you. If I were to replace me with Warren Buffett, would Healthcare Express go faster or slower? Faster. Because he has skill sets I don't have. So I'm the problem. That's the law of the lid. The law of the lid says we can only go as fast as we can go because we're limited by the people, honestly, in this room. The leadership in this room. Hey, Siri's here. Nice to have you, Siri. Thanks for coming. So in order for things to change, you must change. In order for things to get better, you have to get better. That's actually the way it is. If you want to attract things in your life, you need to become attractive. People always say to me all the time, how do I attract more money into my life? I'm trying to attract money. Become attractive. That's what happens. You want to attract honest people in your life? Be honest. You want to attract people who are highly competitive in your life? Be competitive. Whatever you are, you attract. The law of attraction says that what you are is what you attract. Not what you say you want to be, not what you're going to think you're going to be, but what you actually are is what you end up attracting. So let me tell you an example. A lot of physicians, PAs, nurse practitioners right now are not in a great place, right? I mean, people are frustrated because it ain't the way that it used to be. Frustrated with decreasing reimbursements. We're frustrated with malpractice. We're frustrated with Facebook. We're frustrated with all of the things that are in the environment, and I understand that. In 2006, I left the emergency department. And I became the medical director for an emergency department in 1996. In 1997, I took over the contract, so not only was I the medical director, but I also had the contract for the emergency department, which means I basically had a contract with the hospital. They hired me to run the physician side of the emergency department. So I hired the physicians, we paid their malpractice, eventually we opened a billing company, we did the billing, etc., etc. And we built, honestly, a great emergency department. In fact, there was a book written about it. And we had a trauma center, we had great culture, we had great people, we all worked hard together, etc., etc. Despite all of that, there came a day where there were certain things I could not control. I could not control the financials of the hospital. Okay? The financials of the hospital started having trouble, it started doing this, they got rid of their oncologists, they got rid of the trauma service, they got rid of the anesthesia group, and we were sort of kind of the last group. And eventually, they got rid of us. And it's that day, what I call it the best of times and the worst of times, because I went up to that meeting that day, and I said, I was not expecting the meeting. And they said, we're going to put your emergency contract out to bids. This was like somebody took a baseball bat and just hit me as hard as they could in the stomach. This has been 10 years. 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears, right? Running this place. And I said, wait a minute, my partner's chief of staff of the hospital. I'm the head of the med exec committee. We're integrated, we've got a local group, we all live here, we come here every single day, we're on all the committees, we're doing all the things I thought we were supposed to do. So I know, but it's just gotta be, you can get it for cheaper. And so I had no idea what we were gonna do. We had just started to build our first clinic, but it wasn't finished. And we said, and my plan was to go ahead and run the emergency department contract and open a clinic, and we'd be a referral source to ourselves, etc. The reason I say it was the best of times and the worst of times is because that day, it literally felt like somebody just took the breath out from under me. How many in the room, at some point in their life, had the carpet just pulled right out from under them? Right? Either from a health reason, or a relationship reason, or a money reason, or a career reason. Every time I've asked that question, I ask it to thousands of people, almost every hand in the room goes up every time. And if your hand didn't go up, it will. Right? Because I think it's just the human experience. The human experience is, sooner or later, somebody's going to yank the carpet out from under you. But here's the thing I've learned. When things are going great, we party. When that happens, we ponder. And out of the pondering comes our real growth. Out of the pondering, out of the time that we spend, and you think back, and you think when the carpet got pulled out from under you, I guarantee you that was also your time of growth. It may not have been pleasant, but you became stronger and a better person because of it. And that's what happens. I think sometimes God just has to get us down on our knees so we can say, holy crap, I guess I'm not in charge. Thought it was. But another great thing happened because of that day. Because of that day, I decided I'm all in this. We're all in. Had we not done that, had that day not happened, I think I'd probably still have one clinic and one hospital contract, and I'd be doing both half-assed. But the reality is we had to say, me and my partners got together and we said, we're all in. We actually had shirts made up that said, failure's not an option. Because at that point, guess what? Failure was not an option. We had house payments to make. And so that's what we did. And so we became all in. We took 100% responsibility, and that's what I want to talk about. We took 100% responsibility. What is the one thing in your life that if you could do it better, would make all the difference? Jot that down. What is the one, this is what I just said is really important. What is the one thing, the one skill set that if you had it, would make all the difference in your life? And now the question is, why haven't you gone and got that skill set? What is stopping you? Does being a great doctor, being a great PA, being a great nurse practitioner make you a great leader? No. Two completely different skill sets have nothing to do with each other. How many in here know a doctor who is a great clinician and a terrible person? What? That's hard to believe. Well, guess what? I've known some PAs and nurse practitioners like that too. Right? And the opposite. How many know someone who's a great person, but you wouldn't let them take care of your kids? Right? I mean, it's because the two skill sets don't have anything to do with each other. So you have to have the one skill set. And I use the clinician skill set, but if you're not a clinician, you could be great at whatever it is you do and still not be a good leader. If you're going to be a leader and you're going to lead people, you have to go get the skill set that allows you to lead people. Which is about communication, which is about understanding human needs and all the stuff that we talk about in here. So, it changed my ideas about what that means. Here's some of the frustrations. I've mentioned these earlier. Frustrations, decrease in reimbursements, patient satisfaction versus great medical care. It used to be, in the good old days, that doctors took care of patients and provided them with great medical care. And if that made the patient happy, that was awesome. And if that didn't make the patient happy, that was awesome. Now you have to worry about, did I provide great medical care, and what are they going to say about me on Google and Facebook? Which, by the way, have nothing to do with medical care. Right? Has to do with a whole bunch of other things, but rarely does it have to do with the actual medical care because, unfortunately, the customer in this case, the patient, can't judge medical care. They haven't been to PA school or nurse practitioner school or doctor school. So they are trying to judge the medical care based on how nice you are. And the reality is sometimes those two things are in conflict. Sometimes the best medical care is to tell them no. And that doesn't bode well on social media, right? And so that's a frustration. Malpractice is a frustration. Paperwork, EMRs. How many just love their EMR? Yeah, one guy. He wrote it. He has the EMR. No. I mean, we're all frustrated by that. It was supposed to be a tool that was supposed to make life easier, and the reality is we've created a tool, no matter which one you use, we've created a tool that makes us work for it. Because the reality is, and I think it's probably because we're in the infancy of EMRs. I mean, we look back 30 years from now, this is probably the baby EMRs. It'll probably get better, but right now, it ends up, I think, being more frustrating than it is helpful. So, the changing face of healthcare. I mean, healthcare is changing. It's whether we like it or we don't like it is irrelevant. The face of healthcare is changing. And so, all of those things become frustrations. But guess what all of those things are? The wind. All of those things are the wind. And 90% of our conversations tend to be about the wind, instead of being about the things we can affect and can change. Let me give you a quick example. If you were to say, you know what, Medicare is the problem, is there anything we can do about Medicare? Everybody's shaking their head no, but I would argue that you could. What could you do about Medicare? You could choose not to take it. You could choose to get involved and change it. You could choose to run for office. You could choose to limit your practice of Medicare. You could choose to do better contract negotiations. You could choose, there are some things you could do, right? And if we sat to all of the smart people in this room, we could probably make a list of 30 things that we actually could do. But what we can't do, there's basically there's circles of influence. The circles of influence basically mean this. If this is my circle of influence, these are all the things I can change. And the circle of influence over here is all the things that I can't do anything about. I can't do anything about the weather, right? But I can do something about what time I wake up in the morning, right? What happens is most people tend to focus on the things out here. So they don't have to focus on the things here. This is why people love Facebook. This is why people love Instagram. This is why people love the election. This is why people love Ebola. Because it gives them something to talk about that they know they really can't do shit about. Right? Can't do anything about that, so they don't have to talk about being overweight. They don't have to talk about their credit cards being up. They don't have to talk about what they've read in the last 6 months. Because they're focused on, it's got to be the Congress's fault that my credit cards are up. Right? Is that what we do? Listen to the conversations around you. All of the conversations are about the environment, not about what I'm personally going to do to make my life and my family's life and my team members' life better. Just listen to the conversations. Here's what I've learned. So in 2006, this is what I discovered. If I focus here, if 90% of my focus is on my circle of influence, on what I can influence, guess what happens to your circle of influence? It starts to grow. That's what happens. Your circle of influence starts to grow if you focus on your circle of influence. If you focus only on your circle of things that you cannot influence, it actually starts to shrink and go down. So my suggestion is, just an idea, my suggestion is focus on the things that you can change instead of the things that you can't change. Here's what we should worry about. We should worry about things, I'll change what I said. Here's what we should not worry about. Don't worry about things you can't do anything about. It's easy to say, but I'm just going to say it again. Don't worry about things you can't do anything about because it's like banging your head against the wall. Everybody agree? Here's the second thing you should not worry about. Don't worry about anything you can do something about. Just go do it. I just solved all your problems. You don't have to worry about things you can't do anything about, and you don't have to worry about things you can do anything about. You're welcome. Thank you. But it's true. It's that simple. I always, when people come from, I say, is this a problem or is this a reality? What do you mean by that? Is this a problem or is it a reality? It's raining outside. Is that a problem? No, it's reality. I can't do anything about it. Well, we're supposed to put up a tent. I'm sorry, it's raining. That's a reality. It's not a problem, it's reality. A problem is something I can solve. Something I can do something about. Here's another way to look at it. Is it a problem or is it a crisis? Here's a problem. A problem is something that somebody comes to you and says, I have a problem. What is it? If I can write a check to solve it, it's a problem. Now, I might not have the check. I might not be able to write it, right? But if somebody comes and says, this is going to be expensive, it's a $100,000 issue, well, that's a problem. Here's a crisis. I found a lump in my breast. That's a crisis. A problem can be solved with writing a check. A crisis is a real problem, right? And you have to separate those two things. If you can learn to separate those two things, you go, is this a real problem? Is this a problem that a check can solve if we have the ability to write a check? Or is this a problem? Because here's what I think. If I said to you, tell me the problem in your clinic, tell me the problem in your business, you're going to start to name some of the things you say. And you're going to say, and I say, well, how do I solve that for you? You're going to say, well, give me some resources. Give me some extra time, give me some extra talent, send me some training, we need some more money, we need to stay open longer, whatever you say. And I'm going to tell you this, resources are not your problem. Resourcefulness is the problem. It's not ever resources. You look at any business or anything that's been built, and it was never because of resources, it was always because of resourcefulness. What could we do to solve that problem? How else could we do it? What else could we think about? That's what I would argue. So control what you can control, don't control what you can't control. Become 100% responsible for everything. When I was in Special Forces, we had a saying, I am 100% responsible for everything in my world. 100% responsible. You say, well, that's just unrealistic. No. The alternative is terrible. I'm not responsible for anything in my environment. And therefore, if I'm not responsible, I can't do anything about it. Responsible, you know the word, right? It's response. Able. It gives me the ability to respond to the problem. If I'm not responsible, I take this away. I have no ability to respond, and that's why you feel frustrated, and that's why you feel terrible, and that's why you feel like you don't have any chance, because you're not responsible. You have to take 100% responsibility for your environment. You have to take 100% responsibility, even for things that in the beginning you start to think, well, that really wasn't my fault. There's nothing I can do about that. I'll give you an example. You may not be the boss. You may not, your team member who comes to you says, you know what? Here's the problem I'm having at the front desk. And I can't do anything about it because that's just the way Clark says I have to do it. So it's not their fault, right? Well, that's not true, because one of the things we learned is you have to lead down the chain of command and up the chain of command. So if that person actually took responsibility, they might come up with a different plan and come back to Clark and go, let me tell you what I've done. And let me tell you why I think this is a better idea. And let me outline this for you and show you this. That's response-able. Instead of becoming the victim, which is, well, that's just what they told us we have to do. Nothing comes down from on top that you don't have an opportunity, if you are response-able, to go back and to say something about. So but people love that excuse. Well, just doing what I'm told. I'm just working in the salt mine, right? And we all do it. We've all done it at some point. Nothing's handed down from on high. Your culture in your clinic, your team, all the things that you don't currently think are in your control are in your control. They're 100% in your control. And even if I'm wrong, it's a better way to live. That's what I decided. When I thought about it long and hard, I thought, is really everything in my control? The reality is, if it's not and I'm wrong, it's still a better way to live. It's still a better way to live, to take complete 100% control and say, you know what, I'm responsible for that. I'll take the responsibility for that. Look, if we get a patient complaint, you know whose fault that is? Every single person in this room. It's my fault. I obviously didn't create the kind of culture that wouldn't allow that to happen. Bad on me. It's my fault. Are there crazy people out there? Yep. Well, bad on us for letting them in. I mean, at the end of the day, you let them in the door. You knew they were crazy. What are you doing? It's our responsibility. Take responsibility for everything. So, I think becoming 100% responsible is the key. Here's what I know. Every single problem in my life started with a really good idea. Didn't yours? I mean, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what? I'm just going to sabotage the shit out of my life today. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the stupidest mistake I've ever made, and I'm going to do it at 9:15. That's not what happens. And usually what happens isn't a one-time deal. You don't go and get fit by going to the gym on Tuesday and working out all day. That's not how it works, right? You don't lose weight by eating healthy on Wednesday, right? What happens is it's little decisions that we make every single day that lead to the big conclusion. Little decisions we make every single day. But the problems that you have started with what you thought was a really good idea. And if that's the case, then had you been able to avoid that, how many people in here would be a lot richer today if they'd never lost any money? Yeah. Did you intend to lose it? So what made you lose it? What made you lose it was not being able to have the optics to see what could have happened. And what this is really about, what getting a mentor about, what coming to this kind of a teaching is about, is really just gaining optics. How do I not make the mistakes? How do I not pay the dumb tax? How do I not do the stupid things and trip over the landmines along the way? That's what this is really all about. It's figuring out, is there a better way to do it so I don't have to make the same mistakes over and over? You cannot solve your problems with the same amount of knowledge that got you into them. Right? You cannot solve your problems with the same thinking that got you into the problem to begin with. You've got to change your thinking. You've got to elevate your thinking to a different level. So, here's a couple other things I know about problems. The first thing is, we tend to be doing, never done. So I say, hey, how's that going, Bruce? And Bruce says, oh, we're working on it. Well, you've been working on it for 6 years now. Let's just get her done. Right? We tend to be doing instead of done. One of my favorite sayings is, don't show me the labor, show me the baby. Right? I don't need to see all the labor. I don't need to know how hard. I know you worked hard. I don't need to see that. What I need to see is the baby. And so many times, well, it's a process. It's going to take, it doesn't have to be a process. Let's get her done. Let's set a date and let's get it done, whatever that thing is. The reason that happens is we fail to commit 100%. 100% commitment is the key. Here's what I know. I go to the gym every single day. You know why? I decided that a long time ago. And so I don't have to have that debate in my head every day. How many of you in your head every day go, oh gosh, I know I should, but I don't want, I'm tired of it. How many have that debate every day in your head? Yeah. Kevin's honest. The rest of you do it. I used to do it, and then one day I said, I'm just going to decide one time. And one time I made the decision, and now it's 100%. It's a 100% decision. If you can learn to make a 100% decision in whatever area of your life is the problem, that's the thing. I know you can do it. How many in here use crack cocaine? Raise your hand. All right, other than Mark. Other than Mark, everybody's made a decision, 100% commitment, not to use crack cocaine. So you know how to make a 100% commitment. So why is it in that one area, you just have to keep that little thing, that little baby? Whatever that area is in your life, because here's what I know. If that area is in your health, it's affecting your work. If that area is in your work, it's affecting your relationships. It's not individual, it's your whole life. Whatever the problem that you haven't solved is affecting the rest of your life. Make the 100% commitment to solve that problem, and the rest of your life will get better with it. It's just the way that it works. The quality of my life is directly proportional to the things I've made non-negotiable. I learned that from one of my mentors, Keith Cunningham. The quality of my life is directly proportional to the things I've made non-negotiable. And I think that's probably the quality of your life as well. The things you've made non-negotiable in your life dictate the quality of the rest of your life. So make those things non-negotiable, and honestly, just think about owning, and I know I'm speaking to the choir because you're here, but the rest of your team, the key is to get them to take 100% responsibility for owning their job. When you hire them, you own their job. 3 months later, if you still own their job, something went wrong. If you have to own their job, if you're the only one who cares about their job, if you care about their job more than they do, something went wrong. Either you hired the wrong person, you interviewed the wrong person, you didn't onboard them properly, or they need to go. I have a saying. If I wake up thinking about you 3 days in a row and we're not having sex, you gotta go. That's what it is, right? It's a good thing for you guys to write down. If you wake up thinking about that team member 3 days in a row and you're not having sex with them, they gotta go. If you are having sex with them, you and I need to have a talk. Completely different problem. Okay? Because you're doing instead of being done. Solve the problem and get it done. So, Conclusion, basically what I'm trying to tell you is, take this concept of 100% ownership. You are the problem. The great news about that is, I love that. I used to hate it, but I love it because if I'm the problem, I'm the solution. I know how to work on me. I have a really hard time working on Dr. Khan. Trust me, I've tried. But I know how to work on me, so I can go to work on me and you can go to work on you. And if you improve you, everything else in your team, in your clinic, in your environment will improve. All right? All right, good.